Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. And a lot of the shoot footage that I put out, right? I get a lot of questions and a lot of criticism on the product demos that I do before I do like reviews and that kind of thing. A lot of times people are will sit there and ask me, "Hey, why such an emphasis on the reloads?" Right? Like you do 1,000 reloads per thing. I know you can do a great reload, but as far as self defense, especially handgun stuff, you're likely to not do a reload. This and that and the other. Well, a lot of times when you guys are getting product demos and that kind of thing, and a lot of times when you do like shoot footage and that kind of stuff, I don't really separate my ammo between me training like individually and me doing a product demo. The only difference really is that a camera followed me outside. So a lot of times, especially when I do stuff like this, I'll load short magazines and that kind of stuff to increase the number of reloads that I have to do, that kind of thing. Um, Sometimes they're known reloads, sometimes they're unknown reloads, especially when you see like one reload ones or 1R1s. That's obviously a known reload. But that doesn't really answer the other questions, like why such an emphasis on stuff like that. Now, there's a lot of things that go into a 1R1. Just all the mechanics involved in that kind of stuff and your individual training that really, really you should focus on because it focuses on a lot of things, especially coming out of the holster. Now, when we go into this type of mindset, we're grooming individual skill sets. We're making sure that we have things tied down that we're supposed to, so that when we have to use our tactical brain to solve problems, mechanical stuff isn't a problem. So if I'm going into mechanics building stuff versus situational based stuff, I can separate the two. I can work on skills, and I can also work on, my tactical mindset, air quotes, and my problem solving ability separately until I feel like I can mate the two together. I can do problem solving stuff with short mags, do those reloads, solve a bunch of shit that's out here so that my mental processing is good to go also. So let's talk about all the things that go into a 1R1 and how important it is to you. And here's the thing, like in our classes, we do a lot of stuff like this where we will pick an individual thing that you definitely have to know, and we'll just get rep on rep on rep on rep on it to make sure that at the very least we can get a basic concept of what it is, or we can start to groom things that we're already doing. Meaning, if I see someone doing a reload a particular way, but he keeps failing to go in slide lock and that kind of stuff, I'll sit there and I'll look at him, and I'll see what's going on with the thumbs, what's going on with hand pressure, and that kind of stuff to see if we can't get that thing to lock to the rear consistently, so that the gun works the way it's supposed to, and he can still maintain control of the handgun and that kind of stuff. And while that might be frustrating in short term, over long term, that builds those just good habits and that kind of stuff, so that we're not putting up with unnecessary problems. So it's either stuff like that, or it's stoppages, or it's one-handed stuff, or simply indexing certain things like handgun sights, whether it be a set of irons or a dot or whatever. There are things that there are techniques that bleed into both, and there are certainly different technique sets that benefit each individual thing, right? So I'm not going to approach a set of iron sights the same way that I'm going to approach a set a dot on a handgun, for instance, because one is just faster. So just as for instance, right, I'm working with a gun that's got a dot on it. Now, here's the thing. A draw to a single shot and then a reload and then a single shot is going to encompass quite a few things all at once. First thing, it's going to test the efficiency of your draw and how you're coming out of the holster. The second is how you individually index that dot, how it comes into your plane of vision, whether or not it's efficient, whether or not you got to drag or swim your way onto your target area. And then after the shot's fired, it's going to check your inspection ability, and then everything else as far as mechanics getting the reload done. But once the reload is done, we have to index back onto the target as well. So it's not simply a shot, reload, and a shot. It's also your draw mechanics, and it's also your ability to index those sights regardless of whether or not it has a dot or a set of irons on it. Does that make sense? So when we get our handgun out there, I'm making sure that, first of all, my draw technique is good. Because, for instance, when I'm drawing a handgun, okay, instead of trying to scoop up underneath the shirt, which whatever shirt it could be, it could be at a different length. So me personally, with the shirts, I'll get in between the sidecar, okay, the sidecar magazine and the optic. I'll be able to feel both, and because I'll be able to feel both, I can index between them and snatch up the whole garment. So when I come up in between them, I can feel the difference between the two, find the gap, and scoop the whole shirt up. That way, I can consistently draw the handgun. I can consistently get my covered garment out of the way, and it doesn't matter what shirt length I have, right? So it's not just that, it's how am I getting to that individual handgun? Me personally, I don't get all the way into it like I had in the past and get a full grip anymore. Me personally, because I've missed and I've gotten too low on this before, I wrap up over the top, okay? And because I have a dot only on this thing, it's easier for me to pull out of the holster, and then I can simply wrap my thumb back around. It's a little bit harder if you have like beaver tails and that kind of stuff on your Glocks or whatever handgun you're using. So me personally, with my striker fire guns especially, I tend to not like those. Now with 1911s, which I still run, I still shoot, I still like them, I have to go into a slide into second base mentality, and while over time I've gotten pretty good at it, I am indeed slower, I've found, than simply just coming up over the top and then wrapping the thumb back around once I got the handgun out. So it's that. It's also from the holster, am I going to the straight 45 degree instead of bowling too hard or fishing too hard? Me personally, as far as indexing a dot consistently, there is a very minor fish, but the reason why there's a very minor fish is once the handgun comes out and I'm on the way up with that 45 degree angle and I complete the grip, as I complete the grip, I want to index the dot every single time so it's not unpredictable. So what I found is that I'll just adjust my pinky pressure just a little bit as I'm vicing everything in, and I'll set it naturally high anyway. I'll just let the Glock do what it wants to do, and it naturally wants to point a little high. So because it wants to point naturally a little high, I'll simply use that pinky pressure and adjust that by bringing it in line, and it indexes the same way every single time so that I know where it's going to be, I know where it's going to fall, and I know how to adjust from there. Does that make sense? So I'll go extra slow during this individual draw and the shot, and these are just all the mechanics before the reload. Make sense? So we're going to get the gun out. As we get the gun out, you can actually see all of those little things, okay? So we'll just go ahead, keep all the things that I just said in mind, and I'll go ahead and do the draw, fire the shot, and then I'll talk about what I'm going to do next. Okay, now that the shot is fired and I'm in slide lock, okay, there are a couple of things that I personally do because I've shot a lot of crap ammunition, okay, and I've done a lot of training, I've wore a lot of parts out. So me personally, if my gun isn't working well anymore, and this isn't working anymore, okay, because working well is a gun shooting, okay, if the gun isn't working well anymore, this includes that for me personally. So bang, goes into slide lock. I'm looking for anything that could possibly be in there. If I just got a whole bunch of blackness, cool. And a lot of times it is on the way in because I'll just break it down on my way in. And if I have to stop and go back and fix something, I can. But most of the time I'll fire the shot, and as I'm pulling back in here, assuming it's a reload, right? Because most of the time it's just a reload. Assuming it's a reload, I'm looking in here the whole time, making sure that that's good. When I am clear, cool, I'm just going to start dropping. I'm going to drop the magazine out, get the new magazine in, and finish the reload. However, if there's a problem that I run into, okay, I fire the shot, and instead it's a Type 3, I'll stop everything that I'm doing, go to fixing it, and all of that. Does that make sense? So it's just a way for you to be pretty consistent on how you're handling your objects and that kind of thing. So either way, we come out. On the way in, I'm making sure that everything is good to go. Now here's the deal. All at the same time, as I move my body into reload mode, I'm automatically going into the shirt, indexing a new magazine. And here's something else. A lot of guys will overemphasize their workspace, and they'll sit there and press on this magazine button, and this thing doesn't want to come out, and people complain about how Glock magazines don't drop free. They got to do the Glock shake and all that stuff, right? The problem is that the gun definitely does go into slide lock. Or, correction, the gun definitely has magazines that drop free. You could just be two different types of in the way. The first type of in the way is you're too vertical in the first place, and you're not letting magazines drop out. Okay, they'll drop out. You just got to let them fall. Okay, you got to let gravity do the work here. The second is, especially for right-handed guys, and especially right-handed guys with big meaty hooks on there, with their normal firing grip, they could get in the way of the other side of their magazine buttons, so they're barely moving this thing out of the way, and then they got to shake it. So if that doesn't work for you, you might want to use this finger rolled into the trigger guard. Okay, this finger rolled into the trigger guard so you can press and it falls straight out. Okay, me personally, I don't have much problem with it, but I'm really used to scooting the gun a little bit and rotating it a little bit in my hand, mostly because it was kind of adopted from this, where I'm just moving the whole thing over in my left hand. So as far as right-handed is concerned, I'm pretty used to scooting it over. That way I'm out of the way and all that other shit. But either way, point is that your own digits could be getting in the way, and you could be overemphasizing your workspace, which a lot of guys will have to do a Glock shake for in order to get the thing out. So making sure that we are doing the right thing as far as just letting gravity take over, let the magazine fall out, get the new magazine in. Once it's in, we drop the slide, and once we're done, now we have to re-index our dot, which needs to be as consistent as possible to our draw, because if it's predictable, then it's consistent. Make sense? So even on that reload, we're trying to index the dot the same way. Couple of ways that you know whether or not that you are is if you fire that first shot, you get out there, bang, and even on that last shot, I wasn't very consistent either. Came straight up into it. Okay? So either way, you fire that first shot, there's a miss in there, so you already know I did something inconsistent, right? Because of the dot movement, I could tell what it is. I didn't drop it in a uniform way to how I normally do it, and I just mashed the shit out of that trigger, so it happens when you fuck things up. But we go into that reload. Once we go into that reload, we want to index the same way that we do with the draw. So we index that same way, and we'll get that hit if we're as consistent as we can be. So my inconsistent action led to a miss, and my consistent action led to a hit. Does that make sense? So we roll into the same stuff now, to where now it's a lot more things rolled into a simple shot, reload, and a shot. There's a lot of things that we have to be accountable for. There's a lot of little mechanics that we need before we decide to go think about tactical stuff and all this survival shit that people keep talking about on their keyboards, right? So, again, we get the draw in, we index the same way that we normally would. Okay, get the shot, do the reload, look at everything we're supposed to look at, and get the hits. And that's how we build our consistency and our mechanics, because while we're doing all of our tactical shit, we have got to have our mechanical stuff in order. So, that's what I have on this particular little segment here. I hope you guys actually like that. If you guys want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. There are not a whole lot of courses on the schedule right now, and that is mostly because I have to wait on the Army for a fiscal year schedule, and the Army's fiscal year starts in October, because nothing the government does makes any sense. I just got one of those, and it usually takes a couple of weeks for me to finalize a whole bunch of stuff, so stay patient on that. I'm looking to go a lot of different places this year, rotate through a lot of different things, and do a lot of specific stuff to what a lot of people have been asking for, and that kind of thing. This includes, like an AK class. This includes a shotgun class again this year. This includes a vehicle class. It's all kinds of shit, really. There's also some considerations I've been making toward people that have had a lot of issues trying to find ammunition and that kind of stuff, especially coming toward the holiday season. So you may see some updates as far as that is concerned, because if you can't find the ammo, I'm not going to bill it the class. You know what I mean? So I might be doing some one-day stuff with like 700 rounds, for instance, so that it's just a whole lot easier for people to come out, be able to find the time, be able to find the ammo, come out and do what they got to do, versus trying to track down 1,400 or 2,800. And we'll focus on individual stuff that seems to be more difficult for a lot of people to get into. And this will probably roll through the holiday season. I imagine that as we continue further along, as we get through a year's worth of the Ragnarok of retards, we'll find a way to go back into normality here, especially after, we get through probably November. So be just stand by. I'll come up with as much as I can. What's left on the schedule is I'm going to Georgia this weekend. I'm going to, Mississippi for 2 different sets of classes, a Pistol 1 and 2, and I'm also doing a marathon series out there for guys that have experience within our training program and want to come out and die. Because I think there's like 6 names that are coming out for all 4 days. That's a lot of crap. It is. So a lot of dudes are bringing out new equipment to break and everything else, which will be great. Also, I'm going to El Paso, Texas. For guys that have been beating on me to go out to Texas, that's what I've got right now. Okay. So we'll see what happens on that front. If you guys have any questions, comment section below and all that shit. As far as where I'm going to go next, I really have no idea because I'm in the process of calling people and that kind of shit right now. So there's that. If you guys want to support us through Patreon, you absolutely can. It helps with all of this significantly. Okay. And if you want it to benefit you instead of just us, if you sign up for $41 a month, you can come out and train with us as much as you want to, for as long as you want to, so long as you're signed up to that. All it really requires is you to sign up to that. You email me with the email that's provided on the website that you want to be in X class. I'll be like, okay, I'll double check, make sure that, you're on the thing, and then I'll put you on a roster so long as we have a slot. Make sense? So there's all of that, guys. It's been kind of a rough year. I know. But I appreciate you guys for continuing to support us all the way through it. You guys kick all the ass. And I personally appreciate a lot of what you guys are doing. It's astounding. So, with that being said, guys, remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.